What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies. Welcome back to another episode of The Conversation. We are in October. I am in the midst of my double feature challenge for the month. It is the season to do so. I am recommending, or, ooh, I am not recommending. I have been recommended movies to watch, two at a time, from various horror movie lovers such as yourselves. And I'm watching them, and every once in a while, at least once a week, I'm sneaking in a conversation. So, for tonight's episode, weaving in and out of your consciousness like a bad dream you can't wake from, this episode of The Conversation welcomes some of the most magnetic personalities I've ever met. They are always if you've been on this channel before, welcome back. If it's your first time here, welcome. But you've heard me talk about going to this theater up north Kansas City called Screenland Armor. And I'm 6'5", so I stand out like a tree among people sometimes, and I'm used to that. But when you start to hear about people and you start to hear about events like, oh, you're going to the recording of that podcast event. What podcast again? Who is it? And then you find out who's behind it. You want to meet them, especially when you find out that they're into horror movies too. So tonight they are the hosts of the Nightmare Junkhead podcast, a horror podcast that believes that everyone deserves a good scare. Again, we have Greg and Genius from Nightmare Junkhead. How's it going, guys?
Hey, we're still kind of blushing right now.
Why?
That was wonderful. Thank you. That intro was grand.
Dude, you have to, like, we were talking backstage, needless to say, and just it's like I wish I lived closer. I'm all the way south. I'm in Joko. So it's like if I lived closer, I'd be there more often and I'd see you guys more often. But when I was doing this uh, whole thing, I was like, who haven't I had on? Because last year I had 31 conversations in 31 days. So everybody from people like Kelly Powell and Jill Six to Nightmare Toys, Christy from Nightmare Toys out in Vegas, to several YouTubers, Instagrammers, friends. And I was like, this year I want to have it so that people I've had on before, love you, recommend a movie or two. And if I haven't had you, who are you? Let's get you on. So we've had a couple of people on so far. But you guys were the first ones that I added for October this year. I was like, I have to see if they'd be interested. So I'm glad you were.
Quite honestly, we really do appreciate you letting us join in on this journey that we're all going on. But specifically, we're so accustomed to introducing people that it's all about waxing the car. So when our car is actually waxed,
we don't know what to do with ourselves.
We don't know what to do with ourselves.
Off our game.
Hey, give flowers. That's what I say. You got to give flowers. And you guys have been doing this all a while, and we'll talk about that. So it's nice to not only get to turn the mic around, but just like we were talking backstage, just to talk movies. I started this because I wanted to talk movies with other movie lovers. It's easy to say I like watching movies. I'm sorry, I don't have that much of an interest in talking to people who just like watching movies. I need the fans. I need the lovers, the people that can, pick out a score from a movie or remember like a little joke or whatever the case may be, because you've watched it 11 times. That's who I want to talk to. So this is a perfect opportunity. And like I said, you guys need your flowers. So welcome.
No, it's appreciated. And that's the one thing since we've been doing the podcast, hosting things here at Screenland throughout the town, it's done because we legit love the genre, horror, sci-fi, action, just movies in general.
Yeah. And like you said, it's meeting those and talking to those people who speak that same language that you do. That when they can throw out a reference, you can pick it up like, and just like being able to talk about something that you're truly passionate about. That's something when you, again, like I said, when you talk about something you love talking about it.
Yeah, so true. So we're going to get into that love, and we're going to take it back, and we're going to also talk about the double feature that you recommended to me. I have to say, you brought back some memories with your choices, so we will get into that during this episode. Before we do, we are not alone. We have a few people here in the chat. We'll have more people coming in. As you do, welcome to everyone in the chat, everyone lurking, everyone on the replay. Please, if you want to, leave some comments. If you have some questions for our guest tonight, um, feel free to pop it in the chat. But let's see who's here joining us tonight. We have another Kansas City representative. We have Ryan from the Disconnected. Kansas City is definitely in the house. Yeah.
KC.
Yes. And the Screenland reference. And I
Nice.
think, yep, you're wearing a Panic Fest shirt. What do you have on there, Genius? I can't see.
Wolf Cop 2.
He's just representing the genre altogether. So that's so cool. Ryan was with me last October, 2 years ago, October, for the Nightmare on Elm Street festival that they did at Screenland. That was so fun because I had seen all of them in the theaters at one point or another, except Freddy versus Jason. And that's when everybody left. The theater dropped to like 40%, and everybody was like, I'm going home. It's freaking 12:30 in the morning. I was like, ooh, I'm so excited to see it. So
I've
yeah,
been
he was
I've
with
been
me.
lucky enough to take part in a couple of those kind of never sleep again marathons. There
Mhm.
was one many moons ago at the Draft House that I was there
Yeah,
for.
Alamo did it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so fun because you kind of see a franchise rise and fall and kind of
Mhm.
rise again over the course, and it's incredible because it generated so much. In fact, we just watched New Nightmare as a Friday Night Fright here at Screenland, and that was
Yeah.
the one that ultimately, for better or worse, is kind of
the meta one of it.
yeah, that gave
Yeah.
us Scream in so many ways.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was actually for parts of that one that was here at Screenland, so I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's
Yeah. And the cool thing is we're talking about New Nightmare. Today is the 30th anniversary of the release date of it. And the movies that we're talking about tonight have some meta representation in
Oh
them
yeah.
too. So they're self-aware of themselves, I will say. Let's see, who else? What else? I'm also 6'5", the trifecta. Yes, sir. We got Adrian James in the house saying hello. We got Mr. Tony from Basement Blues. Genius. He's also a physical media collector. If
Nice.
you want to check out his channel, he has 2 rooms talking about storage issues. 2
Oh
rooms of
shit.
movies. Yeah, for real, for real.
remember, it's not a problem unless you want to get rid of it. So
Exactly. It's not hoarding
Or
if
move.
everything you have is cool.
that is correct.
Moving is a problem too, believe me.
Yeah.
We got Michael out in LA saying hello.
What's up, Michael?
We got Nikki saying good evening. How are you, dear?
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Speaking of Nightmare on Elm Street, there you go. Exactly, Pulp Fiction and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Very good.
Produced by Danny DeVito, Pulp Fiction.
We got Prince saying, what's up? Welcome from Thailand.
What's
Thanks
up?
for joining us. All right. Before we get started and keep the questions and the comments coming in the chat, I always like to start with the icebreaker. So we drew straws and Genius came up long. And the name. First of all, introduce yourselves because I did it in the intro, but please individually introduce yourselves.
There's a reason that depending on when you see us, if you see us together, it's usually typically I'll introduce myself as Greg D.
And I'm Genius McGee.
And the reason we do that is for the rhyming scheme.
Mhm.
Now, if I'm just by myself, it's always just going to be Greg. But that D does definitely come into the Genius McGee, and it's the Genius McGee that usually needs the explanation. So, Genius.
Because we love alliteration, you know. The when we talk, the tantalizing tickles our timbre. So no, Genius. So my nickname is Jay. It's short for Juan because it's a long story, but I just go by Jay. And then one day people were asking me, well, what does the J stand for? And I was like, Genius, right? And it just kind of stuck there. And then also I was on my day job at the time. I worked with a lot of children, and I also talk about heinous shit on my free time. So I wanted to keep those two worlds separate. So if anybody was like, well, let's see who this new person is, then they don't know who I am. So it's kind of like, you know, keeping work and play separate.
Mhm. That's like people always say, KB, what does that stand for? I say, my government name. Leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
It's like, why are you all in my business? It's like, you don't need to know all that. You come in my social security check, just relax.
Some
Just say
secrets are
KB.
better left alone.
Exactly. It might be on the low. Just keep it that way.
Yeah, well, I think there was, many a genre folks back in the day said we would have like our computer selves and then our real selves. So in a lot of ways, those of us that put stuff out there like that, we kind of have our more exaggerated
Mhm.
personalities versus who we kind of are on when the cameras aren't on or the microphones aren't on.
Because like if
Very
you're
true.
on, you can still be on all the time. You just don't have to have the volume up 24/7.
Yeah.
So
You should probably take a note on that
I
occasionally.
know, right?
You are very loud.
For those that don't know, Genius is the physical media collector of the crew. And we are just talking about storage and how it rapidly just goes away as you find those big hauls and those thrift
Sucked up into the
stores.
void somewhere. Just whoop, well, that's
Yeah.
gone now. So time for new shelving.
Yeah. I had a situation like this is my basement area. So I have a big screen, I have like nice theater seating, and then, surrounded by posters and shelves of this stuff behind me. And one day I'm down here and I have like two Yorkie mixes and they're growling. I'm like, what are you growling at? Shut up. It's not time to go upstairs. And I see them over by the steps and they're growling. About 20 minutes later, the oldest shelf that I have down here just falls apart. And like all my Disney and kids movies just like fall to the floor. I was like, oh, that's what they were growling at. So I've since like kind of organized them into like columns, but they're still on the floor because it's like I don't want to get another shelf. It's like
No,
I'm out of room.
And what do we say on the show? Always listen to the animals.
listen to the animals because
Listen
they,
to
they
the
know.
animals. Yes,
They know.
very true.
Barking in corners, Blair Witch
Mhm.
and shit, doing whatever. If animals
Now
are
the question is, what are their names though? Because you can't throw out the animals
Oh,
without. 'Cause
come
I'm an
on.
animal person.
Okay, I was born in 1970, so you'll get this. My 5-year-old boy is Lando, and my 3-year-old girl is Ahsoka.
nice.
It-
Nice.
You could tell which franchise I grew up on.
Right?
Yeah, there are many of us that
Yeah,
grew up under that umbrella that has seen
yeah.
that umbrella grow in many different ways, which is
Some for the good, some for the bad.
and that's just
Right?
it though. Imagine back in the early or mid 80s if we knew what we'd have access to these days.
Let alone a
Yeah.
Darth Vader prequel, a whole Star Wars 24/7. You know, if you would have said, like, hey, you like that Return of the Jedi movie? How would you like to see 7 more?
Well, that's almost very similar to how I introduced my son, who is forever my Padawan, to it because it was when Fox had the premiere of episode 1, and I think it was like Thanksgiving night. I went to take people to the train station. I came back and my wife's at the door and I'm thinking something's wrong. She says, "Go inside and look at what your son is watching." He's my son when he does something like that. And I sit down and he's watching the pod race. And I sit down next to him. I was like, "Hey, buddy, you like that?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "We got some movies to watch tomorrow." And
that's what
all
I
day,
call
Holy
parenting.
Trilogy on Black Friday. I didn't even go shopping. I just like sat down with him and watched all three Star Wars Empire, Jedi, back to back.
Bravo.
Oh,
Bravo.
Initiation.
Mm-hmm.
and I tell you,
If they don't learn it from us, they're going to learn it from the streets.
And
That's just how it
you know what?
goes.
It's always a bad thing when they learn it on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
I still have one of my fondest memories is seeing Return of the Jedi in the theater. It was the Glenwood Theater. This is getting very
Glenwood
regional.
Arts.
Fancy.
Very regional, but we literally were able to buy programs for the movie.
Yes.
And I remember just standing in line, reading the program, being so
Mhm.
hyped for the movie, and just washed and enveloped. And then the same theater, I did see episode 1,
Yeah.
and I remember walking out that night, and I was like, I liked it,
It's not the
but
same.
I need to let it grow with me here. And it's one of those that definitely has grown with me, and I know it's getting a reappreciation of the fans out
Mhm.
there, which is kind of nice to see.
Yeah. I remember cutting school to be at the first showing because it was like 3 o'clock. So we had to get there for 3 o'clock. So we had to cut school early and we got our tickets and they had the programs inside the ticket booth.
Oh,
So we could stand online with our ticket, reading the program,
Nice.
talking about is he really his dad? So we were like totally geeking out, 12, 13-year-olds just geeking out over Jedi. So it
Yeah.
happens.
Again, it's finding your tribe, finding your people that
Mhm.
speak that language, that love it as
Mhm.
much as you, that know the nuances. I
Yeah.
I remember I'm old enough that I basically, I'm not saying I got bullied in high school for liking Star Wars, but the fact that I knew that the TIE and TIE fighter was twin ion engine, it didn't make me any friends or get me any dates. So
Well, and something you said, like, getting bullied in high school, I think, and like bringing it back to horror movies and shit. I think that's something that's kind of cool nowadays. That, like,
Mm.
I'm not saying that we're elder horror spokespeople, but I mean, we've seen some shit, and it's
Yeah.
always good to see like the younger
Oh
kids
yeah.
like appreciating it. Like, speaking of, I saw Terrifier 3, and we had some kids in the audience dressed up like the little girl from part 2.
Yeah.
So, and when kids are dressed up, they go to cons and you see like a little
Oh.
babies dressed up like Chucky, and you
Mhm.
see whole families dressed up like
Yep.
the Addams family. I mean, just everything. It's
Yeah.
great to see that, like, this horror, this love of the genre is being passed down, because when we grew up, if you were a horror fan, you were shunned. You were
Yeah.
called a freak or a Satanist
Satanist. Mhm.
or like anything like that. I got kicked out of middle school,
You got called to the
middle school,
principal's office.
yeah, middle school shop class for making a clock with like Fangoria pictures I cut out. The teacher
Wow.
thought I was like a Satanist because I just put like decapitated heads and Chucky and Freddy and shit. And
Wow.
so yeah, so it wasn't cool. Just like everybody's like, oh, it wasn't cool to be a comic book nerd, or oh, it wasn't cool to be a Star Wars nerd or Star Trek nerd. It wasn't cool to be a horror nerd. And I'm glad
No,
that we live in this time nowadays where that shit is celebrated and lauded, and
Yeah.
it's cool
it's
to be,
universal.
be passionate about what you love. And I think it's because, like you said, it is universal, because there's always that horror movie, there's always those comic books, there's always, no matter what part of the world you're in, we have that shared folklore, that
Mhm.
shared story. And I think it's shit like that that brings us together and makes things like the love of the horror genre that much more special and important.
Yeah. Couple more comments. Oh, Tony says he's out of room.
That's
I'll hit you up to see if you wanna get rid of some of your doubles or something.
That's the
Uh
brain of every collector, being out of room.
What's up, Holland? Let's see. Yeah. All right, I do have a question. And this is how we'll get started. So, from Tackade to live events at Screenland Armor, how did the two of you start the podcast and when? Take us back.
oh boy, this is really easy because it started with him making some assumptions out of things that weren't necessarily there.
Correct.
I will just say I had a bad experience in 2009, whenever this 2009, 2000, so whenever The Strangers came out. Had a
Okay.
bad theatrical experience. Kind of turned me off from the theatrical experience, and I started putting on movie nights in my backyard. Now, the movie nights in my backyard turned into a podcast that I was doing kind of by myself. And I was married at the time, and my wife had run into this individual at this specialized toy shop. And she mentioned, like, there's this guy there, and he put on this presentation, and he was really engaging and charismatic. And I was like, well, that's cool, and thought nothing of it. Flash forward maybe 2 weeks later at a burlesque show. Then wife runs away, comes back, and she's like, "Hey, that guy was at the toys thing. That was him, and I invited him to one of our movie nights." And I thought nothing of it because I'm very much an introvert. Cue genius.
I thought
What did you
something.
think?
I
What did
thought
you think?
something different. I was like, "Hey, come on over to the house one night. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a couple of drinks." And so I'm like, "All right, cool. It's
Did
gonna be
you
like that, huh?"
did you hear the word husband at all?
Not once. Not once. So I'm thinking, oh, it's gonna be. Let me bring some mashed potatoes because it'll
The
be that
fact
kind of
that
party,
he
right?
came tells you
So,
something. He
huh?
still came over. That tells you something.
and so it says like, oh, I'd like you to meet my husband, and like part of me was like, man, fuck, right? And so like, all right, cool. Started talking to him. I think it like was return. It was Terminator 2.
No, it was, so I was doing a summer of Schwarzenegger movies in my
Okay.
backyard. In June, I'd watched Commando,
Mhm.
and it was raining, so I was downstairs in the basement. We were watching The Terminator,
That's right.
and
One.
I start talking with this guy, and I find out he loves horror. He's the president of this thing called the Kansas City Horror Club, and I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. I was like, hey, I do a podcast that no one listens to but possibly myself. Would you like to come on and plug and promote?
And I'm like, sure, fucking, I'll talk about the horror club events because I need promotion.
Mhm.
Any
Right.
pour in the storm, right? So, and it was cool because I go down there with like one intention, and like I wind up talking to this guy, and there's madness and shit going on in the movies, and meanwhile we're just talking the whole time, just
That's awesome.
everything going on, and
And
it was
this
almost like in Step Brothers. It's like, did we just become best friends?
Yep.
Yup. And so like, and then he goes, "Come on the show." So I came on the show, and it just instant banter and chemistry,
and
and
that's just it. It was one of those things with him. I was like, this dude's a ringer. Like, he's either done podcasting, he's into radio, and it turned out genius for a long stretch.
back in the day, I did stand up. So yeah, back in
That
the
doesn't
Stanford
surprise me.
Sundays. So
Mhm.
mhm.
But the banter was there. We had a good time doing it. It went the podcast turned into something called Nerds of Nostalgia.
Mhm.
Our very first episode we ever did, we had Tim Canton on as the guest.
Hey.
Yeah, we'll talk about him later. And he liked our banter enough that he's like, I'm putting together a podcast network and I want to do a horror podcast. I'd like you guys to do it. We're like, oh,
Cool. Sounds good. Because we already have a name for it and everything. Nightmare Junkhead. What does that mean? I don't know, but we can change it later if you want. I'm like,
And
okay,
we never
cool.
did.
And then 400 some odd episodes later, we're still doing Nightmare Junkhead. We've been hosting things at the Draft House, Tapcade. We've been putting on Friday Night Frights here at
Yeah.
Screenland Armor for about 4 years now.
Tell them what that is.
Every Friday at Screenland. If you like horror,
We show the coolest horror movies around.
holy shnikes, we do everything. We just watched this year Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Mhm.
So we went back 70 years.
We showed Riccio, Story of Ricky.
I'm so mad I missed that.
We showed
one of your favorites, KB. We watched In a Violent Nature, and
old ones, new ones, cult classics.
our whole thing though is we provide a 10 to 15 minute pre-show. So if you show up early, we've got some really fun, weird stuff that shows up.
A little trivia. And some
We always give
context.
away a
We got
VHS tape of
prizes
some
and
sort,
stuff. We give a little like tidbits about the movie,
and then the movie
the
plays,
madness
'cause
ensues.
we're there for the movie. But yeah, every Friday now for 4 years. And man, there's nothing better than seeing a movie, especially first timers seeing a movie up on the big screen and knowing when certain points are going to hit.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sleepaway Camp, and then
Ladies and gentlemen, Pieces,
right? And so
I mean, it's been so much fun. And honestly, the best part is the community that's come together now after 4 years. There are so many familiar faces.
Friday Night Film Family.
We got people that drive in from Topeka. Yeah, again, the familiar faces, like, oh, and especially when the people we don't get to see every week come out, it makes it that much more special. It's been something that we've been lucky enough to do. We legit love doing it, and like you said, it's because we love it.
Yeah,
for us, it's always a genuine thing, and to be around the people that love the movies as much as we do. So when something hits that only I think I enjoy, and I hear someone else giggle, I'm like, I'm with my people.
I know I would be there every Friday if I lived closer, because it's such a good time. And if it's a combination of something new I want to see, like let's say this Friday Smile 2 comes out, and I'm like, okay, I could go see Smile 2 and then be there at 9:30 for Friday Night Frights.
Yes.
Some combination like that. And sometimes you guys kind of massage what you're showing to match up. So like you said, like In a Violent Nature, how it matched up with, the movie that night. So I love that. I love that, because anytime I'm at Screenland, like this was the only time I went to the movies last October was for Carpenter Fest, because I literally was doing a live almost every night or editing and putting up stuff. And I said to my wife, I said, I need to get out. I need to do something. She's like, well, let's go to the movies or something, because she knows that makes me smile. And I said, well, I gotta do a live stream. And I said, you know what? I wanted to do something with John Carpenter. I said, I'm gonna just poll a whole bunch of people and say, hey, take your phone and make me a quick video saying your favorite Carpenter and why. And they did that. And of course, there's a consensus, there's a thing, there's, whatever, Halloween 78. And I just threw it all together in Premiere. And then as I was uploading it, I got in the car and we came up to Screenland. By the way, everyone, they are live from Screenland Armor right now. They are in the house, literally. And we went up there and we got the nice leather couches right in the front.
Yep.
And
Oh,
we
yeah.
just sat there and watched Fog, Christine, and the thing. And it was like, as many conversations that I had last October, that was like the most relaxing night. Just to be among, like you said, the tribe, the
Yeah.
movie lovers, the people
It's
calling
chill.
out quotes and first time watchers. I love seeing that.
Mhm.
It's so much
Mhm.
fun.
That's why we do it.
And honestly, this month we actually devoted all of our episodes, except one, to Carpenter movies.
Mhm.
I actually just watched Village of the Damned for the first time ever, which really good
Yeah, it's
remake
really good.
that
Yeah.
Carpenter did.
And I went on the defense for Ghost of Mars.
Ooh, I haven't seen that in so long. I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen Vampires, but I'll watch that later this month.
Check those out. Those are great later Carpenters. Those are
Yeah.
really good.
We're basically kind of lamenting the fact that there were certain movies that put Carpenter off of Hollywood and making movies. And we even talked like I would love to see him make another movie, but I want him to legit
He
want to
wants
make
he'll
it.
have to want to
Yeah,
do it.
Yeah.
enjoy it. Enjoy
Yes.
the process, because I don't think he enjoys the movie making process as much as he
Fuck
used to.
Hollywood. I'm not gonna do it my own way.
Yeah,
Y'all
pretty
take a
much.
dick.
Music, yes.
Oh, and
Music,
we-
yeah.
we
And
were
the
lucky enough-
graphic
We
novels,
saw him in
yeah.
Chicago about 2 years back at his concert, his Lost Themes concert. It's great. He felt like it looked like a goddamn rock star, but more importantly, he looked like he was having fun. He was smiling and all like
Nice.
happy and throwing out the fucking devil horns and rocking out with his kid and just having a ball.
It looked legit. The smile didn't look like it was forced. We were all looking at each other like, wait, what is he doing?
He was having stage
What is
banners
that on
out
the
there like, read any good books lately? And then the Alpha Madness would come out and like
It was
shit
great.
like
It
that.
was great.
Nice. Oh man. Well, we kind of told people what experiencing a movie is like there on an event. What has been some of your favorite times being at Screenland for a movie or an event?
What happens at Panic Fest, genius? Memories are made.
Memories are.
What shirt are you
absolutely made.
wearing?
Wolf Cop. Yeah, there's
Tell
so many.
them a little bit about a memory at Screenland and Panic Fest, genius.
Oh, there's so many memories. So one day, so it's the screening of Wolf Cop, and everybody's excited for Wolf Cop because it's fucking Wolf Cop, right?
Right.
And so, full theater one, full house, right?
That's a
I
big thing.
have bag of popcorn in one hand, and I have a whiskey and coke in that. This is
A
my drinking
big,
days.
Big, like about that size, actually.
Yeah, it was my drinking days. So, and I come out there and I'm like, yeah, Wolf Cop, woo! And everybody's like, yeah. I take one step and I fall fucking up the stairs, like up 2 or 3 stairs, right? Not down, up.
Up.
Popcorn flies everywhere like it's a fucking Tom Savini squib, but they just fly everywhere.
Oh.
But I don't spill a drop of my drink. I don't know if I have like gyroscopic hand, if it was like my inner drunk, like
I think that's it.
use the chi, guiding my hand and shit. But
Yeah.
And everybody's like, ah, and then
The payoff.
the next day we go to Comic-Con, right? And we go to a booth and there's this cosplayer, and I'm like, oh, hey, cosplayer, right? And so I go up and I'm like, hey, how you doing? She's like, you look familiar. And I go, yeah, where do you know me from? And she goes, Wolf Cop. And I'm like,
Oh.
And I was there
I will
to
take my business elsewhere. Thank you, madam.
Wow.
Like, go off with my tail between my legs. I don't know what else to say.
And I was there to witness
Wow.
both of those occasions, and they are just as awkward and cringeworthy as they sound.
But there's so many good memories. Like,
Oh yeah.
we've been doing it for so long. There's so many fun times we had, like people walking out when we showed her, like, ladies and gentlemen, arachnophobia. Nope. And they just got up and left.
Same thing with Sting and Infested this year. People
Yeah.
like Spider? No.
Oh, and those, I mean, anytime you throw in our 8-legged friends, it ups the ante in terms of my anxiety. And we've had like amazing screenings. We've had
memorable moments. Death Games was memorable.
we were lucky enough we had a chance to podcast with Joe Lynch. We did a episode on hardware and 90s horror. And honestly, this show has given us the opportunity to do this kind of stuff. Without the podcast itself, we wouldn't be talking with you right now.
And every time we show Sleepaway Camp, it's it's one of my favorite times. Any year, any time that we can show Sleepaway Camp.
All it takes is one person in the audience.
Yeah, my cutoffs. They literally came as a gag from the Sleepaway Camp screenings, and now I wear them every day.
It's like in The Simpsons when fucking Patty and Selma, they got their suit. They started off as a Halloween costume, but it found its way into my regular rotation.
Oh man, talking about Panic Fest, I'm sitting here since you do appreciate physical media. I got in my latest haul, and I'll start with the that's cute ones, and then we'll work it up. So I got Double Jeopardy. Amazon had a sale, so they both got more of my money. Classic. You got to go with Muppets Take Manhattan.
Love me some Muppets Take Manhattan. Muppets Take Manhattan is the shit.
Together again.
Love it. I'm a big Hitchcock fan, so I was happy to finally upgrade my Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Oh, nice.
I only had the DVD, so I'm glad that Warner Archive released it. And talking about Panic Fest, we have 2 movies from Panic Fest that I saw. We have Boy Kills World, got that 4K. Oh my God, I think I went to 3 screeners of that before it was even released. And probably my favorite movie that's been released so far from Panic Fest, What You Wish For. Did you guys get a chance to see that when it showed?
No, but it was one of those that I knew by its reputation and the word of mouth once it played.
Yeah, it was really good. It almost like a Hitchcock type of movie, but modernized. It really got to me, and a lot of movies this year really got to me. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
But saying, man, there's some really good movies at Panic Fest. Is saying like, man, there's a lot of wet sodas, because like every single one of them has been really fucking good.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite things with Panic Fest is when the movie makes me cry, and the day has to end with day for me to cry. But
oh my God, this year's Panic Fest.
Well, let's go back when we took in Train to Busan.
Yeah, that movie made
me make you cry.
That ending, I didn't watch the last 5 minutes because
my
head in my lap. I didn't want to watch it. But
was that a first time for you?
It was a first time.
Panic Fest,
yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was spectacular. But there was one that played this year called The Activated Man that had both Genius and myself and many other people in the audience bawling within the first 5 minutes of the film.
Throughout the movie, if you've ever lost a pet, this movie is going to just wreck you. But it's also the kind of wreck that like you feel good.
It's cathartic.
Okay.
Because like it's like everything works out in the end, but at the same time it's like the whole time I'm like,
you were old yeller in the seat.
It was rough for everyone. People would walk out to the lobby and like the screen line. People are like, "Are you all okay?" Like, everyone's coming out there crying.
I had to do the Q&A right afterwards, and the first thing I go, "Dude, fuck you, dude! I didn't know you were gonna make me cry, man."
But that's the stuff that I legit love with Panic Fest and the stuff that happens at Screenland, and even just like new releases, repertory stuff, the stuff that happens outdoors, the fact that we get to come back here, and do our stuff. It's really nice.
Cool shit.
It's really nice.
It's really cool. It's great.
And I will say this: we try not to be complacent with Screenland. Just to get the stuff that we get to do. We're very privileged and very blessed in a lot of ways. So it's something we appreciate. Never want to take it for granted, and that's why you'll see me carrying ladders at Panic Fest, and also like running around like a mad. We're like filling in gaps
where we're sweeping the floor,
because ideally for the people out there to make it a better experience for them. Because that is one thing.
To me, I have Travis Kelce at the game with Miss Swift. I have movie passes for our local headquarters in Kansas City, major chain of theaters here, but every opportunity possible, I get on 35 and I drive up to Screenland because there's seeing a movie and then there's experiencing a movie. And I
Yep.
may not have the assigned seats and the Dolby Atmos and all that stuff, but sometimes I don't need that. I will trade that in to have the atmosphere and that shared experience that I get with other movie lovers. I'm at AMC. I don't know if you love movies sitting next to me. I'm at Screenland. I know you love movies.
And that's another thing, we try to enhance it, give it a little extra, because I know that I grew up with the horror hosts like Cremation Mortem and ones on TV that tells you a little bit, like in Elvira, that tells you a little bit about the movies
Yeah.
and gives you context and jokes. And when you know even a couple of more interesting facts or tidbits or the trials and tribulations that went on through making this movie, it almost makes you appreciate a little bit more. Plus,
Yeah.
it also helps that we like talk about the proper etiquette at the movies.
And
Yeah.
I would
Something
argue,
else we don't get to respect at the major chains anymore.
That's
yeah,
why you need a host. You need a ringmaster for the circus you're about to partake in, or else it's going to be one of those like crazy chaos ass circuses.
and that's
That's right.
something we tried to cultivate, is that quiet, courteous crowd that's also all about reactions, but it's
Mhm.
not talking and commenting. It's you. I have to cheat occasionally on Screenland to the AMC and the B&B,
Yeah.
and I'm always so nervous
Because you never know what
of,
you're going to get.
You don't know
you
what to
know,
expect.
yeah. And
Okay, I do have a question about that.
Yes.
How many times have you been there and oh, how can I put this? You know what to expect from the people around you, but you don't know how the audience is going to react to something that you know is upcoming,
Oh man.
whether it's sleepaway camp or something else.
Take that one real quick.
While you before you answer that, let me just say hello to a couple people. What's up? We got Double Feature Podcast in the house saying
What's
hello.
up?
We just put out their recommendations from Mika and Kira. I have a video up on YouTube for that, so check that out when you can. We also have Night 90 of the Living. How's it going, Robert? Thank you
Hey.
for joining us. Yes, you have a story. Please tell.
So one thing I love to do is, and we all both love to do it, is whenever sleepaway camp is the prime example. Whenever we know that there's going to be that scene in a movie where people are watching it for the first time or they haven't seen it in a long time and seeing on the big screen, we'll always do the periphery vision. We always kind of like get up and kind of go to the side so we can just kind of see everybody's reaction and enhance. And movies like Just Before Dawn, movies like Sleepaway Camp, movies like Pieces, movies like Society, movies where they have that scene, to see the first timers' jaws just drop and just be a gasp of what they of the horrors and angels to some and demons to others of the things that they've seen. It's so wonderful, and it makes me just like just kind of gives me an evil laugh and an evil giggle.
It's not an evil laugh or an evil giggle. It's a monstrous laugh and a monster giggle. That
I
is the
took
one.
a summer Hitchcock class, and I mean, you could tell it was just crowded with like 19, 20-year-olds just trying to get an easy A. And the professor's going through the movies, going through the classics, Rear Windows, North by Northwest, and he gets to Psycho, and you didn't see any head nods except myself and one other person who eventually became a friend of mine and a fellow moviegoer. And he said, "So you haven't seen Psycho, the most of you? Show of hands who's never seen Psycho." And it was all but the two of us. And they're like, "Oh, we heard about the shower scene, so we feel like we watched it." The day we watched Psycho, I did the same thing. It was like I kind of turned my chair and I was like in the back, and I just wanted to see their faces. I wanted to see the reactions. And that flight or fight reaction, the other one is freeze. All the blood from their face just rushed away. We're talking about a movie that is 64 years old,
Yep.
and they lost all everything in their face was just, and they were frozen. They were frozen until the
Splendid.
cleanup. And I was like, yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of 1960 in a film I just watched for the first time,
Peeping
at Screenland, I just watched Eyes Without a Face for the first time.
Oh, that's the other
And
one. Psycho, Eyes Without a Face, Peeping Tom.
Peeping Tom, yes.
Peeping Tom's dope. And M, you ever seen M?
Oh yeah,
M's the shit.
got it back there.
Yeah.
What's her name? Elsie. When I hear that, I feel bad. I feel bad for poor Elsie.
That's not shocking. No, but yeah, there's something about that, knowing what to anticipate, knowing when to not make it too distracting and going there, and then just soaking it in.
Because you want the people to watch it. You want, and
Yeah.
you don't want them to see you looking at them.
Right.
And yeah, because it's not a creep factor at all. It's almost just like part of the ambiance.
You're an ethnographist out there in the wild, and you just want to see them react naturally to these things.
Here we see the wild audience goes. What horrors they may have said. Let's watch and see what happens.
Basically, our mutual of horror Omaha.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk about these movies that you recommended to me. And first of all, I have to say, I've been trying to find the connection in each one that people recommend to me, commonalities, things like that. And while, I mean, there are commonalities here, but you want to talk about something that's just spot on. Spot on, and dare I say it, apropos for who the two of you are, what the two of you do, and how we come to know each other in this fraternity that we call movie watching. So let me see if I could bring this in. The first movie that we are going to talk about that you recommended was 1991's Popcorn. Somebody tell me what it's about, and then I'll give my review.
Well, and I will tell you this: both of these films were inspired by screenings that we did at past Nerdoweens.
Yes.
And when you have a film class,
for those of you who don't know what our Nerdoween is, it's our triple feature marathon where you don't know what movies you're gonna go see when you're in there, but we give you a theme, and we base all the movies around a theme, and usually those themes are puns. So
built around there. And
yeah,
we've been doing it 10 years now. But with Popcorn, you basically have a film class getting everyone together to put on a big old movie marathon to raise some money for the class, and shenanigans ensue.
I love when shenanigans ensue. Oh my gosh. So this is one. I used to work at a video store, of course. I also used to work at a record store because I love music too. So this is one that I can't remember the last time I watched. And if you don't have a physical copy, it's damn near impossible to find it streaming anywhere. So I had to dig for this, but it is. Here we go. We have some comments. Popcorn is a fun movie. Fun pick. Yes, it is. And the thing about it is, you could see the excitement. We're not going to give any spoilers here, but you could see the excitement in the college students when they really start to get into it and getting the place ready, getting Dreamland ready for Dreamland, getting it ready for it. The one thing I will say about the movie is, and this happened recently with watching Sleepwalkers. The doubles actually recommended Sleepwalkers to me. That movie and this movie, the visual style, even though it's not a slasher, was very, very heavy 80s. So it was like nostalgic in a way, like old horror classics with what they were showing. But the style in which the movie was made was very 80-ish. And I mean, that could happen early 90s. They don't really have their established style yet, but it was very 80s like. And like I mentioned before, it had kind of like a meta commentary going on with the whole genre, both classic and modern day of the time. What do you think?
Well, the girl in Sleepwalkers could be working in the movie theater and Popcorn, dancing around to "Do You Love Me?" While Clovis the cat goes around being a badass. It's corn.
No, this is one of those that I legit love based on all the pedigree of the people involved, because if you go deep into 80s and 90s horror, you're going to have those Rick Dalton moments, because you're going to go, oh, it's Kelly Jo Minter, you know,
Jill Shalin.
Yeah, it's
with her attitude.
Oh, well, and Jill Shalin is one of those that I only watched like The Stepfather for the first time probably a few years ago. I watched Cutting Class for the first time a few years ago. So I've really been taking in a lot of her work in this case. And she is one of those understated, underrated scream queens in a case, or
with a
genre
very
icon.
distinct voice.
Yes.
Legit voice. And Kelly Jo Minter's always just a badass, just a
Yeah,
no nonsense, no
it's in
shit
the
taken,
contract.
just badass. No,
It's in the contract.
It is in
yeah,
the
it is in a
contract.
contract. I mean, and she's got fight scenes in this movie. She kicks ass in this movie.
Yeah.
Legit.
But there is also something, and I distinctly remember we kicked off. It was our 7th Nerdoween with popcorn.
Super 7 Cinema.
And I
Nice.
remember that montage of them getting ready to put everything together, and it's
Saturday night at the movies.
Who
Yeah.
cares which one you see?
Bloom, 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 bloom.
And we're in the midst of doing Nerdoween, and I felt the synergy, and I'm like, oh, this is
Felt
such
great.
a good vibe.
Yep. I mean, the whole
with the
vibe of the
movie.
movie is fun because, like, one, you have the maniac putting on people's faces, body swapping, and he's all fire marshal build up.
And that was, I had immediately programmer's remorse that I didn't throw any fire marshal bill in the pre-show.
Because he's
Let me
even
tell
there
you
when he's doing his villain plans. Let me tell you something, right? Just like the whole time. And the kills are fun. The
Yeah.
movies within the movies,
Might be one of the better
they're
parts
the
of
best
the film.
thing because they're so spot on for the
Yeah.
movies that made this. We that they're talking about the time on our show. We have this I guess not necessarily the intentometer, but we say that your movie can fall into two camps, either the Turbo Kid or the Kung Fury, when you're dealing with like intent and reverence. Turbo Kid has a lot more like love for
And
the reverence,
Yeah.
while Kung Fury has more like, hey, we like it, but let's make more
A
fun
little
of
more
it.
tongue in cheek.
Right. With
More
this movie,
parody.
it's 100% Turbo Kid because you can tell that they love these old style horror movies and they love like the slashers and the freak out movies of the 70s because that the movie that they're watching, the
Possessor.
Possessor, right? Blah, it looked like one of those avant-garde freak out early 70s movies.
Something we would have seen probably either made in Italy, Spain. It was a
something
European
crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's so
the
true.
other thing is, and for me, the other thing that was nice is we just watched for Kaijun One Crazy Summer that has Tom Villard, and he's kind of one of our guys in here, and
Mhm.
his performance is just so next level.
Mhm.
I also just watched him. So watching The Substance, it inspired me to seek out Demi Moore's first horror film called Parasite. If any of you are interested, it's not bad. It's got early Stan Winston effects, but Tom Villard is in it. So when he showed up, I'm like, hey, it's
Yeah.
that guy from Popcorn and that guy
Good for you.
from One Crazy Summer.
And Dee Wallace. And we can't
Yeah.
forget Dee
I was just
Wallace.
about to say, not her finest performance. I think it's past the heyday of the 80s and all the different directions she took her acting career in, but she was there. The
And
check cleared.
rocking that like late 80s, early 90s mom short hairdo that
With
my
the
mom
shoulder
had.
Mhm.
Yes.
shoulder pads on it.
So that in and of itself gives me the nostalgia.
Yeah.
Tony Roberts is always welcome to see. And then, of course, Ray Walston
Give
Yeah.
killing it.
He's
being
the one that
William
got them
Castle.
excited.
Yes. And I've got baggage from him being Mr. Hand amongst many people. But when he comes in and gives us that, like, let's put on a show, let's
Yeah.
give the people what they want, that was and is inspiring. And
Mhm.
I think this movie isn't well known enough. And that whole Nerdoween, we did movies set in movie theaters. And there's something about even looking and watching a movie like that playing, like, can we replicate that? Should we add the William Castle touches to
I
it?
wanted to.
He wanted to for Arachnophobia, and we would have scared the like skin.
I
off
had
of
a
that poor
pocket full.
couple.
I had a pocket full of plastic spiders, and I was ready to just toss them.
I'm glad you didn't. Because we would have had a popcorn-esque
Yeah, we would've.
experience
Somebody would've
with
died.
that.
Yeah, for sure.
A giant mosquito would have came out and impaled somebody. The kills are fun and inventive. The electrocution kill, that was great. The whole like whoop, zip, zip, zip. It was fun, I think. And at the end of the day, that's what popcorn is. It's just a
Yeah.
fun horror movie.
Well,
We have Daniel Garcia here saying popcorn has a wicked, twisted villain. It does. And I think that's half the fun right there. Once you get to that act in the movie, it's just like he's just crazy.
he's playing for the audience.
He's Fire
Yeah.
Marshal Bill in it. He really like.
And then
Yeah.
when you get that build up to the end of it, where he's, I'm recreating Possessor, I'm putting it in the background.
Mhm.
It's like what we try to not replicate, but try to at least bestow upon that kind of experience. Like, holy shnikes, this is intense.
Had a bit more fun. Plus, like when the villain's wearing a billowy shirt,
Oh,
anytime anybody's wearing a billowy shirt and they're putting on a show, there's going to be theatrics involved.
when the prostheses
Flaps,
are
the little
flappy,
flappy flaps on the
yes.
side are coming off. Yeah.
It's that kind of stuff that to me is memorable and what sticks out, and is why then when people go back, they go, "Oh, popcorn! I
Popcorn's
forgot
the
that
shit,
existed." 'Cause
right?
Yeah.
I think the one time I watched this originally before we did it as Nerdoween was on USA
Yeah.
all night.
And I think I was Commander USA's Groovy Movies.
Yeah. We had a question here. Will there be another boutique label versus boutique label anytime soon? Those are great. Oh, you're talking about Mega Mike's battle thing? I think he has another one coming up. I thought you were asking about the release of this because I think it was Synapse that did the Blu-ray of this. So I think that's the only physical that you could find right now besides like maybe a DVD or something. We got Brother Dell in the house saying, "What's up?" We got Eli Cortez saying, "What's up?"
Hey.
Mr. Frost with Jeff Goldblum, good horror film. Yeah,
Very
that's another good one.
underrated.
That mullet he is rocking in Mr. Frost. I remember that distinctly from the VHS cover. That thing was overwhelming and full.
Just the big billowy.
Yeah, and he's spoiler alert, isn't he?
Yeah, he's evil.
Yeah, Louis Cypher.
Not to give anything away, but he's kind of evil in this one.
He's a little evil. A good double feature with that would be Storm of the Century.
That's that Craig R. Baxley flick you have been championing
That
for
movie's
quite
the
some
shit,
time.
dude. I mean, because you got Mr. Frost, you got a bunch of cold stuff, and two evil guys doing evil shit.
I'm thinking about that. In the meantime, let's switch to the other one because this, I have a story for this. So before we start talking about the movie and the plot and all that, I have to tell you my story. So, oops, let me switch to it here. I hit stop instead of switch. I swear I know what I'm doing. There we go. All right. So this lovely movie. So grew up in the heyday of the VHS and the rentals. And I had a younger cousin that we would just hang out and either go out and get in trouble or we would stay home and watch movies, all kinds of movies. So one day, extra money, we just rented like 5 movies. And I do remember Faces of Death, Cannibal Holocaust, some other slasher, some R&B making of music video on cassette, and we watched Faces of Death before this, and then the last one was Demons. Oh, and Serpent in the Rainbow. We had Serpent in the Rainbow. So we're watching all these movies.
An afternoon.
Yeah, just a pleasant afternoon, sunshine and rainbows. So we're watching this, and we get to Demons, and something happened. Because, this is not over-the-top scare factor, but the same way I was telling you about those little college kids watching the shower scene in Psycho, just the blood just left our face after the first 15, 20 minutes, after, the first transformation. And we were standing that whole time. And I said to him, I would not be upset if you want to take off this movie. And without his eyes leaving the screen, he's like, I wouldn't be upset either. And we hit eject so fast on that VCR because it felt like we were being possessed, just like the people in the theater. So please, while you're laughing at me, Greg, tell the people what Demons are about.
Wait, hold on.
That's
wait,
laughing with. Oh
wait,
my!
Wait. Was this after Faces of Death and Cannibal Holocaust?
Yeah,
and all that other
yeah.
stuff?
We watched all that crap, and then this came on, and we thought we were being possessed.
Oh,
this was after Serpent in the Rainbow.
The power of the movie.
Power of Italian cinema.
Mortabile.
Power of the Bava.
Oh my lord! And this is definitely a powerhouse of so many Italian, just
heavy hitters,
provocateurs back in the day. This
sure.
is directed by Lamberto Bava, son of Mario. This is co-written by Dario Argento. This is co-produced by Michel Soave, who is passing out tickets throughout that give us.
He's the guy in the mask. Yep.
And it contains what can best be described as Chekhov's motorcycle and Chekhov's samurai sword.
Out of nowhere. You know what? if Screenland ever put in a motorcycle and a samurai sword and a
I am
mask,
not touching it.
we're gonna
I'm not
have to
touching it.
we're gonna have to go, dude. I'm sorry, as
I'm
much as I
I'm
love
not touching it.
Screenland, nobody's touching that mask. We're gonna have to put some Stantons up there and just cover that bitch up. Do not touch, or
Nope.
your cities or the cemeteries will be into their cathedrals.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's all set in a movie theater, and much like in Popcorn, people are reacting and shenanigans ensue.
Shenanigans ensue. Metropolis.
I
not a
so
good
my
place for
goodness, and
movies.
listen, we understand the trauma from like people watching stuff way too early or hitting them. That it
All
didn't-
good horror fans saw shit way too early.
Exorcist at 6.
Yeah,
Yeah, and all good horror fans. Any horror fan worth their salt probably saw Exorcist at 6 years old, or Halloween at 4, or
Mhm.
something crazy.
On 16 mil.
But that
Damn, nice.
it keeps you coming back though, because even though you turned it off initially, you came back to Demons eventually.
Yes.
Have you been able to see this one in the theater by any chance?
No.
And have you seen part 2?
No.
Have you seen The Church?
No.
How about The Sect?
Keep going.
Technically, they're unofficial Demon sequels,
Mm-hmm.
because there is the Demons 2 that's out there.
That's
Right.
legit like sequel, but
But then the
the
Church
is like kind of
Demons
unofficial
3,
3.
and then the Sect is an unofficially Demons 4, and I think there's
Mhm.
even an unofficial Demons 5 out there.
Right.
Well, that's
But when
like
you
what they
delve-
did with the zombie movies. It
Yes.
was like they
But
just
not
kept
as-
going with the unofficial sequels.
But not a slapdash, because once you get to Zombie 5, killing birds ain't got nothing to do with any zombies.
And that's, I think, why we love Italian cinema.
Uh-huh.
In fact, technically, Popcorn was joint. It was like Jamaican
Jamaican
and
Canadian.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
why
easy.
they had the band on stage.
Multiple,
Yes,
and that's why
multiple.
all the soundtrack, the majority of it was reggae.
Yeah.
But this Demons is just straight up Italian from
100%.
the Claudio Simonetti score, which to me is an all timer. And we've been lucky enough. We saw Claudio Simonetti perform here live he's done
with Demons.
I think it was Demons.
It was
actually,
Demons.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he'll play like a greatest hits afterwards,
It was
which is really cool.
glorious.
But this one though, with like you got punkers, you've got that uncomfortable razor blade scene.
You got the redhead dressed as Buddy the Elf. You got the weird awkward date. You got the blind dude and his Mowbray girlfriend.
You got
Yeah.
Tony. You
Yeah.
got Tony.
You got where's Rosemary? And you got like Greta Gerwig is great.
Yes.
Slap, just beating people up. And the birthing scene, the special effects in this movie are fantastically gory.
But that's the problem. All of, like the transformation scenes look so
Painful when her
Yeah.
teeth start getting pushed out, the
Oh.
fingernails start getting pushed out,
Boils.
This
start
leans
popping and shit
into
Yeah,
body horror territory.
Absolutely, it's
with
gnarly, wonderfully gnarly,
The bladders, the pustules,
and so much violence and chaos. I mean, like, and the dead coming back.
And that scene that we're looking, the poster when they're coming up that hallway
with the
that
blue light
is-
behind him and the eyes just coming in, it's gorgeous. It should be on the side of the van.
That's iconic.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
We got some comments here. Demons Unleashed in the theater is an amazing experience. Yeah, it was.
Mhm.
This I totally forgot. So when I saw it again, I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's just having too much time on that dirt bike."
The only thing that would have made it cooler is if the sword was flaming, right? If the sword
Yeah.
was flaming, he's on the dirt bike, then it would be infinitely cooler. But at the same time, the sword dirt bike samurai is grand and then a helicopter out of nowhere. Dude, this movie is batshit madness. It's wonderful.
Ooh,
So I have to say, just quickly going back to Popcorn, because Daniel just brought this up. There was a period talking about video stores and stuff that certain movies had the coolest posters. Evil Dead 2, House
Mhm.
1,
Mhm.
Popcorn. Just like, even if you didn't watch the movie, you just wanted to see that poster because it looks so cool
Yeah.
every
And-
time you went in.
And very rarely did some of the promise of the VHS cover was actually delivered in the movie.
No.
So it was always nice when they actually go, "Oh, there it is."
Yeah.
Oh, the last comment mentioned the Midnight Hour.
Uh-huh.
That's another good one that's set in a theater. Is
Mhm.
that an Indonesian one?
No, that's Midnight Matinee you're thinking of.
No, that's Last Matinee is Argentinian.
No, that's Midnight Show.
Oh, Midnight Show. We're thinking shit.
But
Too many-
Lady in White was a good one too. That poster was great, and that
Yep.
movie, that is proper good scary gateway horror
Yeah, it is.
because it's 100%
love it.
PG-13 with a kid in peril, but it's proper fucked up. But there's
Yeah.
weird moments of like suicidal grandpa levity. It's really good.
Dell adds, I can't remember if me or my best friend picked Demons that Saturday night, but once the movie got rolling, we were locked in. I
Yep.
tried to lock in, bro, but I don't know. Something was tapping into us that I did not like.
No, it's funny.
And we abandoned ship.
I legit had a buddy of mine. We started watching Return of the Living Dead, and about 15 minutes in, he kind of gives me this look like, there's something not right here. And then about 20 minutes in, he had that look, that PTSD, 1,000-yard stare. And I'm like, are you okay, Adonis? He's like, I think I remember this movie. I need to go. I need to go. And
Aw,
legit bailed.
that's
And
a
I was
fun
like,
movie.
oh, yeah. But
Sounds like me and things.
and things.
Mm,
But no, I legit get when you have those interactions, but thankfully you go back to it.
yeah.
Your baggage changed a little bit, and you can appreciate it for the madness that it is. In fact, the thing that always gets me at the very end also is the clawing out of the back and seeing the full-on face, but also the helicopter
It's just dropping.
just
Pop.
dropping.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because why not? Why not?
And then the fake out switch with the kid with the shotgun, Bob. Wasn't that Bob from Last House by the Cemetery? Wasn't that him?
I don't know if that was, but if not, people will hate on him regardless.
Yeah, probably.
Actually, fun little fact about the girl that's dressed up as Buddy the Elf.
Mhm.
If you've ever seen the Mario Bava movie, Bay of Blood, at the very end, she's one of the two kids that are part of the ending. And if you've seen it,
Really?
yeah, she's also in a Giallo film
Ah.
called They Saw Her Die. She's
Huh.
been in all sorts of stuff. So
Wasn't she in Curtains too?
I can't remember if she was in Curtains or not.
Huh.
There are a lot of Canadian folks in
Yeah,
Curtains.
I know in Curtains, but she was in something else that we saw. Like, hey, it's that one girl from Demons.
Yeah, and that's what we like, especially when we delve into stuff that we haven't seen before, because we're
Mhm.
really big on the first time viewing experience for others and for
Yeah.
ourselves. We've done it through Shudder, we've done it through Screenland, Friday Night Frights, Panic Fest. Through, ideally, I was hoping I was throwing a first timer your way, ideally, KB, but that's okay. That's okay. If
But-
anything,
No,
Demon-
you know what it is? When you haven't seen something for a while, you feel like you're experiencing it. Like I have like movies that I either haven't seen before, or it's been so long since I've seen it, I can't remember it, so I rewatch it for the 1st
Mhm.
time. And I love that. As far as comparisons and commonalities between, of course, they both take place in a movie theater. You still have that feeling of being enclosed and, having that blurred line between like reality and fiction at times, like especially when you have like the incantation happening on screen and happening, at the same time at popcorn. But I just love it. I love the pairing of these two movies together, especially since the only time I see you guys is at a movie theater. It just all worked out.
Well, check out Demons 2 if you want to see demons at home. So, like,
Yeah, I'm thinking about they got the double pack. I think it's Synapse that has the double pack of the 4K, but then Arrow sells them individually too.
But if you legit like Demons, you can't go wrong with Demons 2. It's the movie that Evil Dead Rise wanted to be.
and I will
Yeah,
also go to back for
Deadites.
both the church and the sect.
Those were dope movies. I will 100% agree with the church was nuts. The church was batshit crazy.
You mentioned Nerdoween. So is that coming up? What do you guys have coming up before we get
Yeah,
into
so
the
this
5
is our-
takes?
Yeah, this is our 10th year. So here on Saturday at 4:30. Now, technically, it is sold out
Yeah.
at this case, but we've got 4 films. This is our
Normally it's
10th year.
3, but we're doing 4 because it's 10.
So Roman numeral 10 with the X.
Yeah.
We were like, well, what if we put a little X on each side and made these movies more sleazy, salacious, worthy of our beaded curtain,
The
which we
beaded
do
curtain.
have a
Yeah.
beaded curtain that we break out for any movie that's sleazy. So all 4 of the films,
are beaded curtain worthy.
very much so.
And to give you a hint of some of the things that we've done for Nerdoween 9, we went all like Nazi smashing movies where we showed Dead Snow, Green Room, and Overlord.
the non-Blumkin cut.
Not the Blumkin cut. For Nerdoween 8, we did movies about like food and consumption. We did because 8. We did Food of the Gods, The Stuff, Food of the Gods 2, I should say. The Stuff and Blood Diner. Super 7 Cinema was movie set in the theater. So we did this one, Popcorn, then we did Porno, and then we did a movie called Anguish.
And Anguish is the only film that we've done with Nerdoween that neither Genius nor myself had seen, so we hadn't vetted it properly.
Yeah.
And holy shnikes,
It's something.
Hardcore.
it's not what I
No,
expected
it's
based on
weird.
the trailer I was aware of, but it's got Zelda
Ah.
Rubinstein, it's got Michael Lerner,
Mhm.
and it is a trip.
Weird.
It is a trip.
Zelda Rubinstein has a weird psychic connection with snails. Let's just put it that way. Our very first one was demons. Our very first Nerdoween, and we opened it up with actually demons, and
Mhm.
then we went
Night of the
Night of the
Demons.
Demons, and we ended with Demon Night. So
We've had a
we
chance.
stand for Billy Zane here on this channel.
100%. Bunch of ho-dunk, po-dunk. Well, then they're motherfuckers. Yeah.
You know, you could go anywhere from Demon Knight to I have a child, you know, so
Yeah, right?
you could go different directions.
He's one of those.
And then take a trip in the jungle with the Phantom. So
Or you could just pop into people's minds, hey, do you remember he was one of the bullies in Back to the Future? And
Yes,
people
he
like,
was.
what? I was like, he had hair.
He was feasted upon by
By
Krites
critters,
and Critters,
yeah.
the original one, yeah.
Yeah,
It-
I just watched that a few months ago. So much
he's had
fun.
a storied career he has.
And he
Yeah.
still embraces genre, which I
Mhm.
appreciate. I
Yeah.
appreciate the people that don't see horror as a bad thing, that don't see genre as something to be ashamed of.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
I want Kevin Bacon to make another horror movie.
He
Because
makes
he's one of those people.
he's been really good as a
he's-
villain.
he's really good in Maxine. He
Mhm.
played so sleazy in Maxine. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
So true.
we'll get to Night of the Creeps in a second, I promise.
Mhm.
What else do you have coming up?
We've got Nerdoween 10 on Saturday, and then we actually really excited. Our first Friday Night Fright of November on November 1st. If you missed it at Panic Fest, Ghost Game, Jill Gavargazian's Ghost
I
Game.
will be
getting
there.
A
Jill's a
week-long
homie.
run.
And we got a Q&A with the goth gangster
Yep,
princess
so-
herself.
The last screening of Friday for Ghost Game on that opening weekend is going to get the Friday Night Fright treatment with the Goth Gangster Princess in attendance. Please come on out. We hope to see you all there. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I'll be there on the 1st because
Yes.
as soon as
yes.
they soon as I think I saw it on Twitter, either through her or through Screenland, I was like, support your friends.
Yep.
Support
Yep.
what your friends do. And I immediately sent her a message saying, I got my ticket, I'll be there.
And if you don't have your tickets, you know it's going to sell out.
It'll sell out
Yeah.
You
fast.
know it's going to sell out.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'll tell you, if you ever want a good Easter egg, watch Jill Gavargazian's The Stylist. In the club scene, you'll blink and you'll miss it. He is twerking his way through there. And
Uh-huh.
then, I'm not saying someone is scalped and taken out in my living room, but I am very happy that we got to partake in as much as we could with that movie.
I'm also in Clownado.
He gets his head bashed by Linnea
Linnea
freaking
Quigley.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I was just watching Return of the Living Dead, and I was like, oh, the lady dancing on the gravestone, because my wife and my daughter came in at the same time. I was like, oh, the wife dance. I said, the lady dancing on top. That's the one that did the workout video that my friend got in trouble for buying from his wife. She didn't like that. She's like, oh, that's her. I was like, yeah, trash.
She's the one that put lipstick in her boob and none of the demons. Whoop.
Mm-hmm.
That
Oh,
fucked me up for a long time.
there is also something to be said about people walking in on the most inopportune moment in any horror film.
Oh shit. And
They
we've seen
know
some
me.
shit, and it's happened to us a few times.
They
Oh.
know me. And then what's in December?
December 1st at the Stony Creek Hotel in Independence, the Kansas City Horror Club is putting on Merry Xmas. It's a horror-themed Christmas craft fair. So we got like a whole bunch of cool spooky vendors. We have 70 spooky vendors, and they're all selling all kinds of good shit. We're going to have Krampus taking pictures with the kids. We're actually even going to have a Krampus parade with a bunch of different Krampi. Yeah.
Multiple
Crampone.
Crambone. So then so we're gonna have like a lot of fun stuff. It's going to be a blast. All the vendors that we have, if you were there at the drive-in this year, there is some cool shit. So,
That sounds amazing. Definitely. You guys, if you're anywhere local within driving distance, just the stuff that these guys are involved in through Screenland and through the KC Horror Club, it's just amazing. So, what's the best way that they could find more information, like for the different events?
well, for the Kansas City Horror Club, you just go to Kansas City Horror Club on Facebook. Make sure you spell out Kansas City, and that's the way to stay up all the different horror club events that we put on and we do. And I think Twitter.
Actually, easiest for Nightmare Junkhead. If you go to Facebook, follow us on the events tab. We put every Friday Night Fright, every special event, and we plug and promote it every week on the show as it is. So you'll always just Nightmare Junkhead wherever podcasts are played.
Yep.
Cool. All right. You guys ready for the 5 takes?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
All right. So normally the 5 takes is the 5 questions I ask at the end of every conversation. For the month of October, of course, I have to remix it for the season. So these are going to be all horror themed, more or less. So we will just bounce back and forth between the two of you. So we will start with Genius this time. So we start with number 1, as we always do. Number 1, name the horror movie that made you fall in love with the genre.
Halloween. Like I think it's Halloween, and then Halloween 2 double feature on Friday Fright Night back in Channel 5.
Channel 5.
Back in 1986, I believe. No, earlier, 1984. And I remember being scared out of my mind watching it, but also being enthralled. Like, I'm terrified, but I can't look away. What is this? This is great. And just that whole like dopamine rush after the kills, and just like, awesome. Yeah, so definitely the Halloween 1, Halloween 2 double feature.
Greg?
I'm also the same answer with Halloween, but my first time viewing, and if you go previous guest on your show, Ken and Ashley Sledge, we were on there talking our first time viewing, and my first time viewing at Halloween, I was at my aunt's house. Mom and dad were there. They were all watching Halloween in a living room, and I wasn't in the living room. I was walking around the house, but I heard the music. It was freaking me out. And by the time I walked into the living room, it was by the time he was walking down the stairs, and you got the dun, and it freaked me out. Seeing the shape for the first time, and it kind of steered me clear of horror for a long time. But it was always on the periphery, and it wasn't until I got into high school that I really got back into horror. But Halloween was that seed that was planted so many moons ago that you're going to be kind of terrified of it, but you're not going to turn away from it. You'll find your way back to it. But yeah, Halloween it's the be all end all for me.
Yeah. Shout out to the man. Shout out to Mr. Carpenter.
Horror master.
JC himself.
Yep. All right. For the next one, we'll bounce title to title between the two of you. So we'll stay with Greg. Going on to number 2. Name 5 of your favorite horror movies or franchises.
Not saying I lost any sleep trying to come up with 5, but I definitely put together 5 of favorites. Going back to what someone put up there earlier from 1986, a favorite of mine is Night of the Creeps.
Tell them about it.
It is a perfect example of sci-fi, zombie, camp, Tom Atkins mustache. You've got the thrill me, you've got good news and bad news. There is just so much goodness in this movie, and James Gunn didn't see it before he saw Slither.
Sure. One of my favorite slasher franchise, Friday the 13th. There's significantly more hits than misses in that entire series. So Friday the 13th is my favorite franchise.
Okay.
I'm going to go with another fave of mine. Is from 1985, a movie that's probably my favorite film from the 1980s, and that is Fright Night.
Real.
To me, it has the best special effects. You've got Steve Johnson and so much cocaine really being utilized. Probably the best horror couple with Jerry Dandridge and Buddy. And there's just so much goodness with the film. The score is amazing by Brad Fiedel. Tom Holland's at peak form. It's for me, it's the best. It's the best.
We always have the back and forth, Fright Night or Lost Boys. I'm like, you can't mess with either one. One
Yeah,
is more glamorized, and the other is more well done. That's how
and then
I
we'll
see
even
it.
we'll even throw in the Near Dark for that, or Vamp, or so many other good
so
ones in
many
there.
good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said how Friday the 13th was one of my favorite franchises. Freddy Krueger is actually one of my is my favorite killer. I just so as a franchise,
no.
I just love how he talks shit and he's like, ah, bitch, right? Just like anything he does, he's funny. Yeah, he's a mad shit talker. I love habitual shit talkers.
And great with the one-liners. You got to give him that. It's like, I'm
Mhm.
going to kill you, but let me hit you with this one-liner before I
I'm
do.
gonna add
Welcome to
insult to
prime time,
injury,
bitch. You know?
right? I'm a habitual shit talker.
Yeah,
You
always.
do have a type, my friend, if anything.
Mhm.
Now another favorite of mine, this one actually just came onto my radar probably within the last 4 or 5 years, but I love it as a horror film, not as camp, not as classic or anything like that, but from 1981, a little film called Possession.
Yes. The best thing, I know you're not the physical media guy between the two of you, but the best thing, I don't care if you have the DVD. Go back, find that on physical media and listen to the commentary that man put,
Oh,
because it is like Marvin Gaye's "Here, My Dear." This is what I'm doing for my divorce.
how
The
should we pitch the
vitriol in that
film?
commentary is amazing.
And it's between that and like David Cronenberg's The Brood, you could have two good films about people trying to deal with their divorce through
Mhm.
cinema. But I watched it the first time by myself, loved it, was like, oh my god, the performances are incredible. That reveal is like an oh my god. I watch it with him. He is howling like it
It's
is
so fucking funny.
the
That
highest of high
movie is
camp.
so campy. It's like John Waters Kramer versus Kramer. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. When he's sitting there in the rocking chair like that and he destroys the restaurant, the chef comes up, that makes me mad. And he's going around just being goofy. It's so fucking funny. And the way the guy Zawalski pitched it, he goes, I want to make a movie about a girl fucking an octopus. Okay, what's this movie about? A girl fucks an octopus. Okay, cool. You know, I'm down with squiddly diddly all day longs. But like the funny thing about this movie, everybody's like it's artistic and it's beautiful. I'm sure. But to me, that movie is fucking jokes. That
But the
movie is
thing is,
goofy. You
you
got
you
Heinrich with his fuck foo flipping around doing kicks and shit. You got she's like over there fucking a giant rutabaga man. You're just nuts.
And we did this. We did this as a Friday night fright. He was absent because he knew
I was gonna laugh
I
because
would
Oh
ruin
my
people
it
were
for
God.
gonna
people.
come. I know because people are gonna come and they're like, "This is thought provoking, and this is making my world is being shook." Meanwhile, I'm like, "She's turning into goo," right? So like, yeah, no,
I'll say
I
this. I hope I'm married. I hope I am never going through a divorce, but I do not trust the mental madness of a creative such as himself going through a divorce. This is what we get. This is what we get. So I can understand both sides, but yeah,
A lot
it's
to
kind of like
process.
watching somebody lose their mind. That's
Oh,
essentially what you did.
it's tough. It's tough. What do you got, genius? You monster.
so right back in the day, like if they. I don't know how young some of your viewers are, but like there used to be a thing called VHSs, and they'd have like long run 6-hour VHSs. And if you had a VCR, you could record 3 movies,
Hmm.
right? So I had this mixtape, one of my favorite mixtapes I've ever had. It had No Holds Barred, one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, UHF, and one of my favorite horror movies of all time, Critters 2 on that one. So Critters 2 is one of my absolute favorite comfort food horror movies.
Why that one?
I don't know, but I seen it the most. I fell in love with it. I saw it in the theater twice, mind you.
Was
Okay.
it the first one in the franchise you saw? Because sometimes it's that nostalgia.
No, I've seen Critters. I saw Critters before. I saw Critters 1 in the theater. So
Okay.
like I was down with Critters from it's something about the big ball of death, the campiness of it, the
Easter setting.
the Easter set, the Easter, the hungry heifer theme. Just everything about that movie is just wonderful to me. And like, it was one of my bucket list biggest joys in life when Mick Garris was at Panic Fest, and I got to do a duet with him singing the Hungry Heifer jingle. I mean, that movie is just, there's just something about that movie. It's great. It's great.
Hey, I've had people come on here and trash like classics, so I'm gonna leave you with your critics too.
Oh yeah.
Because it is what it is.
Well, another one then, my number 4 is another one that's a pretty recent find. Actually, we played it at Nerdoween 666. It opened. It's from 1977. It is a movie called The Car.
Honk, 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 honk.
And cannot recommend it enough.
Cat poo!
It has a
Where you at, Del?
Oh my god, it is young James Brolin,
Papa
Thanos, and a car possessed basically by Satan.
Mm-hmm.
It has an ending.
Ronnie Cox.
It has an ending that makes you go, was that what I thought I saw in the explosion? It's all practical. Futurama has pulled from it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tarantino pulled from it for Death Proof at a certain point. But it's one of those that I knew of its reputation, finally saw it, pushed it for Nerdoween, and one of our friends that saw it immediately, this is the best compliment I can always give a movie, immediately went out and bought the Blu-ray from Scream Factory after Nerdoween. So, but it's one of those I cannot champion enough. It's so much fun.
There it is. I was waiting for this. One of the guys in the chat loves The Car.
Yes, The Car is
you are not alone.
The Car is so good.
Brother Del loves The Car.
Fucking the first kill, he fucking runs 2 people off the road, and then that guy with the tuba.
I mean, probably 90% of the audience was seeing it for the first time.
It's so good.
Awesome.
It was so good. That's a great double feature with the Wraith.
That is a good one that way. Number 4 for you, Genius.
Another one of my favorites. There's very few absolute perfect movies in this world, and there's even very few in the horror genre, and especially when you get a creature feature. But there is one movie, stars my man Kevin Bacon, that's absolutely perfect. It's Tremors. Tremors is one of the few perfect movies in all, a perfect creature feature, perfect like emblem movie, perfect like whatever. It's you can get penetration even with the elephant gun with Tremors.
Could it be set in perfection?
It is set in perfection. Tremors is the shit. And you know what? I said it before and I'll say it again. I never met anybody that doesn't like Tremors. You ever say, man, you like Tremors? No, nobody's ever like, man, fuck Tremors. Nobody's ever said fuck
I've
Tremors.
never heard that.
You know?
I've never heard that.
And when a movie like that is universally loved by normies, horror aficionados, gore hounds alike, how can he not love that movie? Tremors is the shit.
It is. I turned around to grab it, then I realized it's all the way up there with the other arrows. I have the Arrows 4K Steelbook.
Yes.
Nice.
So it looks great. It's so much fun.
And practical.
Tom Woodruff Jr. and all those cats. But I tell you what, probably has one of my favorite F-bombs for a PG-13 film.
Fuck you!
Perfectly delivered by Kevin Bacon. It's so good.
Yep.
It is so good. Well, I'm going to close this out here with a contemporary flick, one that we didn't see in the theater during its first run. And we were really upset because when we took it in, we were watching it for an episode, our jaws dropped when we were making these connections and when the insanity started escalating. But from 2021, James Wan's Malignant is one of mine that it just scratched a real particular itch.
It's
for
James
both of
Wan.
us.
It's James Wan's Basket Case. It's so wonderfully 42nd Street.
I love that. I love that comparison. That is on point.
Well,
so many people don't know about that movie. I put people on to that movie. I was like, you haven't seen Malignant? I was like, I don't know what that is. Ooh, you got to watch this.
It was one of the nice surprises, and I will say contains one of the better like police siege scenes this side of like Maniac Cop 2 or The Terminator, but just our jaws dropped, our smiles widened with the reveal of, let's just say, Gabriel and all the madness that goes along with it. Yeah, Malignant was one of my favorites.
Scene was worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah, so
man,
good.
You make me want to go put it on now. I'm like looking at my shelf to see. I'm like, oh no, that's only a Blu-ray. Okay, where is it? I'm gonna have to go pull that tonight. Forget
you
Killer
closing out
Clowns.
with,
I'm gonna watch
Genius?
that tonight.
There's so many other movies that I absolutely love and adore that like it's hard to really find five, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, because like we're a podcast of positivity, so we always look for the good in everything. But there's one movie, and it's not my absolute all-time favorite by any means, but it's one that's kind of like personal in a weird way. On the show, like year one, we were looking for more content and figuring out what we were trying to do. And we saw this trailer for this Ted Geoghegan movie that had Barbara Crampton. I'm like, oh, that looks cool and that looks
I know
scary.
where you're going.
And then I mean, the movie looks really scary. And then when we watched it, we're like, this movie's fucking scary. It is great. Well, when I first bought my house many moons ago, I didn't have hardly anything in it. And I was like, okay, what's going to be the very first scary movie that I watch in my house? So I reached into the box and grabbed a random movie and I pulled out We Are Still Here.
Great.
And that movie is all about shit in a terrifying, scary basement. And when I first moved into my house, the basement that I had was out of a goddamn nightmare. It like the person who lived before was wanted to have a record studio in there, so he made a soundproof room. Well, the person who lived in there before decided he wanted to have a barbershop in there, so he had drains and sinks installed on the floor. And so the person before that tried to turn that room into like a children's room. So when you add
That's a bad overlap.
a soundproof room with drains in the middle and then kid stuff around, it looked horrible. It was a thing of it. You could film horror movies in my basement before I cleaned it out, and everything was on the up and up and innocent. There was no like, this what happened in there, the scary house. No, none of that. Everything was because I knew the neighbors, and the amount of family members that were there were the same amount of family members that left. Right? There was no like they didn't have to dispose of cars or anything like that. They didn't live next to the Clopex. So I knew the neighbors. So when I moved into the house, I was like, oh shit, this house is creepy. But We Are Still Here did not help. But
it's a good one.
I love that movie because it's so like fucked up and it just becomes fucked up out of nowhere.
And just taking it back to Panic Fest as my badge hangs above. It was really cool to be able to watch that last year with Ted and Barbara in attendance, like right in front of me. That was so cool.
It's proper good, isn't it?
It is. And I had never seen From Beyond on the big screen. So that was cool too.
Oh, so
it was like, okay, wait. From Beyond. Wait, I watched Evil Dead Rise with you before everybody else saw it on Friday night. Met Barbara. Didn't walk her to her car. Thanks, Rad Pack. And then Saturday, From Beyond, drink with Barbara during the break. And then that movie? Yeah. And nothing else. I was like, nothing can top this. And then I met Heather Langenkamp this year. So, I'm waiting for like Kevin Bacon. I'm going to manifest this. Kevin Bacon at Panic Fest within the next 2 years.
We need it.
We need
Adam.
a screening of Wild Thing.
Happen. Please. Show Stir of Echoes, the new 4K transfer. Something. I think that'd be fun.
We'd be down with it.
Mm-hmm.
You have one more? No.
I think that was my 5.
Okay. Gina?
And I had 5.
Okay. Cool. Woo. It's always more fun with 2 people. Number 3. Name a horror movie that everybody loves, but you don't particularly like it.
I'll just really quickly. Mine is I like it a lot. I appreciate it for all it is, but I've never loved The Shining. It's a movie I appreciate more than I like.
Shining's overrated.
It is what it is. It's great. I appreciate the world it exists. Room 237, lovely. It's great. But Genius, when he saw this question, he had just kind of a.
I know what I'm gonna say.
Because if you know the show, if you've hung around
I'm
one Genius McGee. Genius, what do you have to say for this one?
I'm zooming in. Hold up. I gotta zoom in. Go ahead.
The works of Ari Aster. That man is a trash storyteller. He makes pretty stuff, that's fine, but he can't tell a story out of a wet paper fucking bag. And you know what the worst part about? You know what the worst part about Ari Aster and his movies are? Worst part about it is he's so dismissive, and he creates this toxic environment in the fandom that creates this gatekeeping where if you say, "Oh, I don't like the films of Ari Aster," no matter what your background is or how astute you are in horror, oh, well, then you just don't like artistic art films. Go back to your torture porn or your slashers. First of all, fuck you. Why not both? Okay. You can have artistic shit and you can have slashers. They're not mutually exclusive. And two, who are you as a horror fan to dictate what another horror fan can like and what not like just because one doesn't think? There's no reason to insult somebody's intelligence just because they don't like a pseudo artistic movie that's not as smart or intelligent as they really think it is. I
You
can
just
go
came
on,
up
but
to
I don't
call
know
that
how
on the
much more
spot.
time we have. It's just this toxic gatekeeping that is created in the horror
Well,
community.
I think it's a lot of genres that are going through that now. I mean, you have gatekeeping with the superhero movies, you have it
Mhm.
with a lot of horror subgenres. There's people that, what do you mean you only like slashers? Well, maybe I just like slashers. At least I like some kind of horror.
Yeah.
Or like when I tell people I don't really particularly like found footage, it's hit or miss for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't want to see any paranormal activities movies. I watch Lake Mungo. I
Yeah.
watch Hell House, but like every single one. No, I don't think
Right.
so. I think the beautiful thing about art is you can be subjective,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be a monolithic type of
Exactly.
subjective opinion.
Well, and then their argument is like, "Oh, well, you must not like artistic films if you don't like our headpiece, our head think
No.
pieces." But it's like, I love me some Osgood Perkins. You know what I'm saying? I love me some like thought-provoking, like Relic from a couple years back about dementia and Alzheimer's. That was
Mhm.
a gripping story about family and trauma and all this stuff about this thing. So it's not even the whole subsection of those types of movies, the quote unquote, another term I hate, the elevated horror, because if you think
Yeah,
about it, all horror has been elevated from day one.
yeah,
There's no such thing as woke horror or whatever horror you want to say because it's always been socially conscious. It's always talked about the fears and the topics that people are actually afraid and concerned about.
yeah.
So there's no such thing as like, oh, well, horror is woke and oh, I don't like the new Candyman because it's got a message. Bitch, horror's always had a message.
Same thing with
Horror
sci-fi. Yeah,
Oh, it's
Yes.
exactly. Horror's
Yes.
always said that. So to say, "Oh, you must not like intelligent horror because you don't like Ari Aster." No, I don't like Ari Aster because he's not a good storyteller to me.
Yes.
But I do like smart, intelligent horror just as much as I like shitty shark movies or slashery schlock or anything like
yeah,
that. You shouldn't gatekeep or pigeonhole people, and the term will go back to your blank movies is such a
Yes.
negative, derogatory, and offensive term.
yeah. It's true.
It's like ridiculous, and that's to me one of the reasons why like movies that everybody loves that I don't particularly like and straight up say hate is the works of Ari Aster because
And
they brought this faux intelligence gatekeeping shit into my beloved horror community.
I'm gonna sidebar for one quick moment because what you're talking about is the way I feel about this movie. This is not a straight on horror movie. This is a movie about grief. This is a movie about depression. And I would say, especially last year, there were a lot of movies that it was kind of like, we're going to heal by making this horror movie kind of thing. But the things that are deep about this, you can watch it and don't experience any of that. You could just
Mhm.
say, "Oh, it's cool," and when she touched your hand, just like the trailer, blah blah blah. But when you go from there and you start to look deeper and you start to say, "Wow, there's a lot of yellow in every scene," and she's always has that color nearby her, and you start to explore, and you could get into that, or you could just enjoy the movie,
Yep.
or you could hate the movie.
Yep.
Any of these things are valid. I have The Witch. I don't like watching Hereditary. We have 2 movies that are not allowed in this house, funny enough. Hereditary, because of me, and because of my wife, The Exorcist. I'll watch The Exorcist, but I can't have a physical copy. Just no bad juju in the house. It's an easy rule. I follow it. We're happy home. But the whole thing is, I don't I don't fault people for who they like or who they don't
Oh.
like. There's a lot of comments. I need to get back to that. Boo, 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 boo. Yeah, all fandoms gatekeep. Some are worse than others. Facts.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm a fan of Asta's work, but understand it's not for everyone. It can because we're not monolithic. Once again,
Right. It
we're
can be
not going to take
well-rounded.
things the same way. A lot of people feel trauma watching horror movies. A lot of people escape trauma watching horror movies. You have to understand it from all perspectives. Horror always had a message, been used or been used as a metaphor for our real life fears. Very true. Very true. Talking about Halloween Ends. Okay. I didn't like Halloween
I
Ends the
liked
first
it
time I
too.
saw it.
I liked it. I thought the Corey Cunningham shit was great. And when he knocked that kid off the fucking thing, it's like, okay, crack up.
I didn't like it the first time I saw it, and then I rewatched it, and I rewatched it from what if you're just going through this by being in Lori's book? Because she got to that radio station mad fast.
Well, I mean, people hated Halloween Kills, and I
Yeah.
thought Halloween Kills was
Halloween
sick.
Kills had some of the best kills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, see? Didn't like Midsommar or Hereditary. So see? Look at that. Don't like Hostel. It happens. It's
Yep.
not you're not
Mhm.
supposed to like every horror movie that you watch.
Nah, some stuff's just not for you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that's
And
ain't
that's
nothing wrong with it.
and that's my I will never say something like it sucks or it's horrible. For me, it's just something that doesn't work for me. Because
Yeah.
I know every movie has out there someone's favorite all-time film, and they don't want to hear you shit on it or
Somebody's
anything. So I
favorite.
will, if I don't like something, you won't hear me say anything about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. But if I don't like something, I'll say it. But then I'll put that caveat: if you liked it, cool.
Yeah.
But it
Right.
wasn't for me, or
Right.
this is bullshit. And let me tell you why.
You'll show your work.
I'm always going to show my work. I'm never going to say it sucked. Why? Because it's stupid. You
Right.
know, that's lazy. If you hate something, if you love something, you should be able to back it up.
I say that all the time. Don't just say it was great. What was great about it?
Yeah. Show your work.
And thank you. And it's not just because don't tell me you like Tarantino's movie because you like Tarantino. What did you like about this?
Do you like
specific
feet?
movie?
Well, why do you like
I
these
know.
movies?
You got a fetish? Tell me.
Right? It's cool if you do.
I mean,
So does he. So
no hate.
rock on.
He had his
Rock
people.
on with your socks on. So
Or
there
off.
you go.
All right, so let's flip it then. Let's talk about number 4. Name a horror movie that needs more love.
I'll give you one that came out this year. I saw it in the theater by myself. I was cackling throughout. I had such a good time, and it was mislabeled as a horror movie. It is not a horror movie. If you go in to see this film, know it is more of a dark comedy, and if you do that, I think you can get a lot out of The Front Room. Brandy's great in the movie.
Brandy
Yes.
Norwood?
Yes, but
Okay.
there is the stepmother.
Is it like Ma levels of goodness?
It's a stepmother from hell movie.
Okay.
But
Right.
the stepmother is played by Katherine Hunter. Gives for me one of the best standout performances in genre this year. She is despicable. She is reprehensible, and I could not stop looking at her. And from her just saying, "I'm going to make me an MESS mess," there is so much poop in this movie. It is, like I said, I think people went in looking for a horror film that it's not. It is a dark
Yeah.
comedy. I would recommend checking out streaming if you can. I got some monstrous giggles out of it.
Nice.
Genius.
Wow.
I felt like I was channeling you on that side.
Good.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of movies that happens like that. Like I got to see the screening of Long Legs before it was even out, and everybody got caught up in the marketing about this is the scariest movie of the year and blah blah blah. I'm like, it is nothing more than Elevated Silence of the Lambs with a little supernatural element to it. Go in expecting nothing and just have a good time with it. But people went to see it and then it was like, this wasn't scary. Who said it was supposed to be scary?
Thank you. I hate. Oh, it drives me insane. The hype and the hyperbole. This is the scariest movie of the year. Yeah, if you've never seen any other scary movies ever, if
Mhm.
you're a normie, there's nothing wrong with being a normie. There's nothing wrong if you only see one movie of this year. Make sure that's fine, cool. But don't say it's the scariest movie of the year as your marketing, because it's going to put this false expectation and this false hope in people, and that's how you get people pissed off like me when they're like, that movie wasn't scary.
No.
Well, fuck.
No. It's like, wow, satanic elements. I'm scared.
Right? I mean, there was some genuinely creepy aspects of that movie, like when that part when the spoilers, not no spoilers, but when somebody comes out of the bushes, that scared the piss out of me.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't say like that was the end all be all scariest movie I've ever seen.
right. It was a moment. It wasn't an element.
Yeah. So,
Oh my gosh.
oh,
What's yours?
Upgrade. Nobody talks about Upgrade. That movie was the tits. That movie is
I
slick.
love that movie.
That movie's so good. And you know what? I've been a fan of Lee Winnell, and I'm continuously a fan of Lee Winnell because he's putting out constantly good stuff. I don't care what that Wolfman is. That might have just been some clown walking by the red carpet.
Yeah.
But even if the bald-headed Wolfman is the thing, I'm still interested to see what he did. I thought he did great with An Invisible Man, but what he did with
His
Upgrade,
writing.
he made the best Twilight Zone Black Mirror episode that nobody saw.
Yeah.
That movie was
love that
action
movie.
packed, it had intrigue, and it had Betty Grable, which I think is an underrated scream queen.
Yeah. And I mean, Dead Silence, another great one there that nobody talks about. I mean, back
Lee
then
Winnell is
maybe it got
super
a little
underrated.
action, but I think his writing is, and especially when he's with James Wan,
Yeah.
because it's like a powerhouse duo, the writing kind of gets like dwarfed in a way.
Did they do Malignant too? Did they work on it together?
I don't
like
think
he
they worked it
produced it or
together.
something.
Producers.
He probably had his fingers in there somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. I thank you everyone who's in the comments. Let's see. Benicio, what's up, my man? Benicio just stepped in. Let's see. Is the front room really a dark comedy or just unintentionally funny?
I heard
Little
someone
column A, little column B.
someone described it as a SNL sketch of an A24 movie.
I could see that. I could see that. I could see that.
I would literally go in for the Catherine Hunter performance alone. That for
Yeah.
me is worth the price of admission.
Yeah. He also adds, everyone I know who's seen Upgrade loves it.
Oh.
It's refreshing. It's refreshing. It's not a franchise. It's not an adaptation.
It's cool. It's unique, and it's
Yeah.
like the horrors of today's society. I mean,
Yeah.
like it seems like it's only 10 minutes into the future.
Mm-hmm. Saying hello to Benicio.
What's up, Benicio?
Love that dude. Clown deserves a bigger audience.
Clown is the shit, dude. Clown is
Yeah,
great.
that's-
When he turns into the were clown, and the ball pit scene is worth the party alone. If you like Clown, may I suggest another movie from Scotland called Stitches? Stitches is really good. It's about a killer clown, but he's funny, and
Yeah.
then not like Art the Clown, where he's not. No, I would take that back. Art the Clown's hilarious.
funny. He's
He's
very
He
super
is.
funny.
Not giving away any spoilers, but if you are anywhere into Art the Clown, I think we're seeing, and this sounds really weird, but this is a film student geek in me. We're seeing more of the Buster Keaton elements in Terrifier 3 from Art the Clown than we've seen in anything. All Hallows Eve, the shorts, Terrifier 1 and 2. It's like David is getting more of a chance to show that side of the mime. And somebody made a comment earlier. I was watching something on YouTube, and they said, the funnier and the nicer art is to you, the worse you're going to get it.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
'Cause it's so true.
yeah,
Wow.
it's
so
a very
true.
astute observation. I love it. I think I'm liking the. You talked earlier how like it seemed like in the past couple of years it's been nothing but like grief and trauma and sadness, and horror's not just that. I think
Yeah.
people are missing, like, I think what made the 80s was so great is like they didn't give a fuck. They just wanted
No.
to put some
It
blood
was
on the
just
screen.
random.
And I think we're heading back to that. We have cats like Adam Green, like Damien Leone, like even some of the James Wan who are putting out these slashers and are putting out these like bloody,
Yeah.
fun,
I can't wait to see Clowns in a Cornfield as
Gore.
a feature film.
right?
Ooh, I just
I
got
think-
chills thinking about that.
We need more fun, mean horror.
Yeah. Saw is back in theaters on the 20th and 23rd. I saw that for the anniversary. Slacks, the movie about killer pants.
That's
My
funny.
friend and yours, Kelly Powell, she's gonna have a double feature that she recommended to me later this month, because as much as you love the car, she loves Rubber. So she's like, you finally have to watch Rubber. You promised me. I was like, okay, I'll watch it. I was like, so what else am I gonna watch? She was like, Killer Condoms. I was like, oh,
Killer
I love
Condoms
to hate you.
crazy.
I hate to love you.
Now, you know, slacks would be a good double feature with In Fabric.
Yeah, it
Killer pants and killer dress, and In
Mm,
Fabric is gooey.
and we do legit love us some Kelly too. Kelly and the
yeah.
entire
Her
family. they
penguin
rock.
costume was the best.
Yes, she dressed up as a penguin from Batman Returns one year. So good. So good. Let's see. Let me take this down. I can keep talking to you guys, but I want to land this plane. I want to thank you both for coming on.
Thank you.
It would have been cool if I got one of you. I'm so glad I got both of you on. Do not go away because I want to find my way into Nerdoween this weekend. We got to talk. Maybe like put me as press something. I got to get in. But now that you've been through the conversation, we end as we always do with number 5. Now that you've been through it, who would you like to see me have a conversation with on this channel?
And I know some of them have already suggested this, but we're gonna make it work. But definitely Tim and Adam from Panic Fest. Got to get them on here so you can
I would
pick their
love that.
brains. Let them, if anything, let them know how much you've enjoyed it and how much it's meant to you and the memories you've made through it. And because they're good people. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just like us.
Just for anyone listening, Adam is the owner of Screenland Armor Theater in North Kansas City, and Tim Casey Canton is the co-founder with Adam of Panic Fest. And every time I'm there, and usually on the last night, I remember last year it was before I went in to see the Robert Englund documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Adam wasn't there, but Tim was, and I thanked him. And this year they were both there for closing night, and I thanked them individually for putting on a great fest again. And I wish I had been there for all the previous years, but I wasn't. So I don't plan to ever miss it again. So if they keep having them, I'll keep being there. And I wish I lived once again. I wish I lived closer. I would just second home. Where's Dad? He's not here. Oh, he's at Screenland. Okay, pretty much. I'll grab a ladder. I'll grab a broom and
That's
do
what
what
we
I
do.
can.
That's what we do.
How about you, Genius?
It's kind of it's cheat because it's two people, but they're almost two sides of the same coin just because of their wealth of movie knowledge and the fact that how much conversation they can carry and just be able to talk about so much things. But Justin Beam and Joe Lynch, I
I love Joe.
I love Joe Lynch, and he has such a wealth of knowledge. He's so funny and charismatic. And Justin Beam has just this one. He's got
Beaming
like these
eyes.
just
Oh my God.
these piercing eyes that you just can't help but like stare and get lost in. And then time is but of concept when you're
Yeah.
looking into his eyes because when he's talking about all this horror and he's so
Jeez.
knowledgeable and
Jesus.
he's so
He's
because
worked with
he's
so many
talked
people.
to all those people and
Yeah.
he's heard all of these stories and he was born in it, raised in it, right? So like just sit there and like stare into his eyes and talk. It's like in the old movies when you hear the the theremin playing in the background and you're just like focused on him. But if you ever get a chance to talk to Joe Lynch, he's filthy and so knowledgeable.
Joe
And
Joe is
Justin
another one
Beam is
though.
great.
You lose track of time with Joe for another reason. He likes to talk. I was sitting with him. I want to say, well, first I came over and I had my Mayhem steelbook, and
Mayhem's the shit.
I kind of geeked out. I was like, "Sir, can you sign my movie?" He's like, "Oh yeah." And then we realized we're both Long Island boys, and we started talking about New York and all that.
Oh no. Oh
And
no.
yeah, uh, time was gone.
Real
And
quick.
the only thing
Yeah.
that stopped him was that I want to say it was right before, yes, because I was outside talking with Jill and Eduardo Sanchez. And then I came in and I started talking to Joe, and it was when Blair Witch was starting.
Yep.
And that was the only reason that he stopped talking. So I love him to death, but what's the word? He is loquacious.
Loquacious.
Yes.
Oh, hey.
He's got the gift of gab.
Yes.
And I will say, shout out to Reverend Entertainment, Justin Bean's company that put together so many special features on so many boutique Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So it's a growing industry, and I love to see different people. The first comment that we saw tonight, Ryan from Disconnected, also has a company called Somebody's Favorite Productions, and he's doing different special features on
Nice.
different things, whether it's commentaries, video essays, or written word. Spider Labyrinth, the 4K that Synapse did, that's one of his first ones. So check
Oh,
out
Nice.
check out
Rad.
Ryan Verrill. Just look for his name or Dr. Will Dotson. They both work for Somebody's Favorite Productions, so they're getting a lot of stuff out there. So it's really cool to see.
Nice.
Yep. All right. I want to thank everyone for staying with us, for listening, for watching, for lurking, watching us on replay, commenting. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Always a pleasure to have you. I'm going to continue my double features for the month and get a couple more videos up. I know I have a few that I need to do. I already watched a movie, so it's really just a matter of making videos. So Benicio, who was just in the chat, is coming up. And the Ghoul Girls talk about Screenland regulars. We got Julie, who writes for Bloody Disgusting. And we also have Meredith and Lisa. They all recommended movies to me, and I watch all of them. So they should be coming up within the week. And also my friend Caprice from Draculina Horror. So more videos coming. Thank you. You can find these guys on your favorite podcast program. Just look for Nightmare Junkhead. I think it was easy to find. No one else had the name, so that's why it's stuck. And they is it like every other week you put out a podcast?
No,
now?
it's
Every
every
Friday.
week.
Every Friday.
Every week.
And
Damn.
then every week there's bonus Patreon content, and then every other day or every 2 or 3 days.
We do Patreon every tier. Honestly, a lot of bang for the buck.
You get choices.
Nice. And I hope to see you guys on Saturday.
We'll make it happen.
That's all I'll say. Thank you so much once again for coming on. Thank you everyone for checking us out. As I always say, go watch a movie. Have a good night.